Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. My name is Juliet Clark, and I'm your host today. We have one of our authors on deck, so hold on. Before we get started, I want to send you over to take our Promote, Profit, Publish quiz. You can find it at www.promoteprofitpublishquiz.com. So what are you going to find out? You're going to find out if you're ready to publish, and most of you are not. So it's important to build that audience, to have a plan with the book, beyond just making money with the book, and knowing what has to be done in between. If you do it in steps, like wait to promote after the book is done, you're going to run into a lot of problems. You're behind the curve. Also, don't forget to go over and subscribe to us over on YouTube at Superbrand Publishing. You can see all of these over in video. If you're listening on a podcast and you want to see what our guest today, Amy, looks like, then you'll have to hop over to YouTube and find out. So today's guest is Amy Rodeffer Thompson. And when Amy, the author of Namaste Bitches, which we're going to talk about in a minute, is not busy writing poetry on the Notes app in her cell phone, she's a coach for professionals and business owners. She did all the adulting things she thought she was supposed to do. So by that, she means college, corporate career, blah, 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 and is now delighted to be the co-creator of the Bossably Arena, a community of people who aspire to make a difference, doing work that lightens them up. As a recovering people pleaser, we could talk about that, Amy nudges others towards true joy, leading by her personal example and guided by the divine intuition she possesses. She uses humor and kind-hearted intent to help others see what's possible. Amy shares her life with her husband, Don, and an amazing circle of loved ones. What is that? Like, I'm just wondering, what is that circle of loved ones? Because when I read it, I was like, are those animals? Are they people? Are they sheeple? Are they a combination? What are those?
Family by blood and by choice. That's how I would describe those humans who surround me with love. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Throw that in there. As you're going to find from this interview, Amy has a wonderful sense of humor, and she is really kind, even with that sense of humor. It's kind of that dry thing. So, Namaste Bitches. I'm sure everybody's out there is like, well, that's sort of an ironic name. Where did that come from?
Yeah. So it has a couple of layers, but initially it came to me. I was doing a coaching call, and one of our clients, for whatever reason, she wanted to sign off on our call with like hands in prayer and like bow and say Namaste Bitches. And it was hilarious. And we're like, we love that. So of course we want to use that to, close out a Zoom call. And as we decided, we're going to write this thing and create a book journal, I was like, what the heck do I call it? And I was in the middle of yoga teacher training. So namaste is kind of a yoga phrase. Anyway, I'm like, all right, well, timing seems kind of synced up. And when I say bitches, I mean, I'm talking to girlfriends and I'm like, bitches, it's about to get real in here. And so the combination of the two words just seemed very on point.
It's so interesting because you went through yoga training. I'm one of those people, you're supposed to go to yoga to relax, and I'm competitive and I'm stretching. So, for me, when you say that at the end, I'm like, yeah, I finished.
Well, yoga, if you choose to make it an internal competition, by all means, you were in the right place. No one said you had to leave all like light and airy and, rainbows and unicorns. Some people leave like, I left everything on the mat. And if that brings you joy, by all means, Juliet, use yoga in that way. I give you permission. Go ahead, girl. Be your competitive self. It's fine.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So you and Michelle reached out to me, and tell me how this all started, because you had your book written pretty much before you ever got here, but you didn't know it.
Yeah, I did. So in January of 2019, I was at a weekend retreat put on by a facilitator of one of Danielle Laporte's things, which is the Desire Map. So I literally spent 2 full days figuring out 5 words that describe how I want to feel more often than not. Sounds like a heck of a lot of time to spend, but I'm a word nerd. So that totally was my love language. And so I figured out my 5 words. And the next morning I woke up and I wrote a poem. I'm like, what is that? And I wrote it for one of the participants, some stranger. I was like, hey, I wrote something for you. Can I read it to you? And she's like, is it gonna make me cry? And I go, nah. I start reading it. She starts crying. I start crying. Other people in the room start crying. And I was like, oh, maybe this is like a thing. I don't know. So from that point on, things just kept coming to me, and I would literally grab my cell phone and go on the notes and just type it all out and go, oh, okay. And it just kept happening. And so I spoke with my business partner, Michelle, and I was like, check this out. Isn't this fun? And she's like, can I publish it on our website? And I went, no, but it's personal. That's a work website. What is that? And she reminded me that people need to hear things, whether they're directly work related or not. Okay. So I've been doing that for, I don't know, year and a half now. And I have well over 100 poems there. And then we thought, this might actually be the kind of thing people might want all together, like versus the internet, because God knows it's too much work to find stuff on the internet. So we talked about doing this, and I think I'm the one who thought a journal would work. And so, yeah, the idea was born to like make it a thing. So here we are.
Exactly. So I want to tell you how brave these ladies were. When we got down to go get endorsements, they wrote the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama. Like, they gave me their list of people, and I was like, oh my God, like nobody's ever, like, we all have lofty goals for our endorsements, but the Dalai Lama. So tell us what happened when you wrote the Dalai Lama, because this was the part that was pretty darn incredible.
Okay. So, what happened was a member of His Holiness's team. So my business partner, Michelle, handwrote this letter to the Dalai Lama, and his team emailed her back and thanked her for her beautifully handwritten letter. They didn't endorse it, but how sweet that they actually acknowledged it and pointed us to his documentary that's coming out or something, which is fine. But it was cathartic to thank His Holiness for inspiring us, which is actually how I used this task to find endorsements. I just said, okay, well, that's super awkward. Let me lean in with gratitude and then go, hey, you've meant so much to me. Here's specifically how something you've written or something you've said has meant something to me. Here's the ask. I'm not attached to outcomes, but if you could, that'd be amazing. And His Holiness chose to not endorse, but did acknowledge that the compliment was well received. So
yes,
there you go.
Yes. As did Danielle Laporte. She wrote you guys a very nice letter back. Beautiful. And said that her schedule just did not permit it at this time. But I mean, it was kind of fun to watch you guys just go so well. I don't know about Michelle. It seems like Michelle's comfort zone is everywhere, but to just kind of watch you guys go outside your comfort zone to these like huge names, track them down, stalk them, and then graciously take your nose and love it.
Yeah. So when Danielle Laporte wrote me personally, and she so graciously said that she's up against her own deadline, but genuinely wished me well and hopes I get everything I want out of this venture. I thought, oh my gosh, I was just given the gift of being shown how to say no with grace. I mean, I'm going to just print that thing out and like slap it on the wall, because someday I'm going to have to tell somebody no and be like, what would Danielle do? Perhaps I should follow in her footsteps.
Okay. I hope Danielle Laporte's listening, because we just went from what would Jesus do to what would Danielle Laporte do?
She's created a template for me.
What
it's amazing.
What did Dalai Lama do?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
So when you broke these down, you broke down the book. Mm-hmm. You broke it into 4 sections.
Yeah, 5 sections based on those core desired feelings that came from the Danielle Laporte workshop that actually started the fountain of poetry anyway. So it kind of made it go full circle. So yeah, and they, depending on how heavy or light someone's in the mood in the moment when they pick up the book, it goes, from something as heavy as divine purpose to something as light as joy, and in between. So they're generally thematic based on a chapter, I guess.
Do you want to jump into the themes?
Sure. Yeah. So and these are my core desired feelings. Everyone's are different, but the first one is luminous. So I feel like I'm a lighthouse, and my job is to just, I even have the picture of a lighthouse behind me, to just, put out good into the world, basically. Divine purpose is me tapped into source, God, spirit, however you refer to something bigger than you, that it's really important for me. And in fact, I feel like I co-authored this with God. So it is very important for me that, I'm looking beyond just my little self to something bigger. Power is a lot of these poems are about me taking back my power. I had disempowered myself and then going, cut that shit out. Just start living your life. And so a lot of the poems are kind of in that lane. And open is figuring out that, bamboo is so tough because it's flexible. And so part of life struggle is, how do you bend but not break? So it's kind of in that lane. And then joy for me is I like being a joyful person. So those moments where you realize something is really savory and just relishing that moment, not holding on to it, but going, this is freaking awesome, man. And living in those moments and allowing them to pass until the next one comes along.
Yes. And you said something so powerful there about power, how freeing it is when you acknowledge that the power is yours, and not blaming anybody else for whatever is in the way. It's all you. I don't mean that in a narcissistic way, all you all the time, but you have the ability to take that power and do whatever you want. And so many people do give it away. And it is so freeing when you step up and say, okay, we just had this conversation with another one of my authors yesterday about that realization that, the patterns in your world and how you contribute, that's part of your power.
And stuff's going to come at us all the time. And the choice we have is, how do I receive it? And then what do I do about it? And the quicker you can get on board with that, the easier it is to actually start enjoying life.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're not just sitting around getting, beat up by life. You're like, actually, no, like life is just life. It's neutral. And all the insults that we have are perception. Like, is that really an insult? Or is that just them doing their best and me doing my best, and they may not be in alignment? Okay, that's pretty neutral. And then it can get fun.
Yeah. And it's amazing to watch inside of that, the anger that falls away when you just say, okay, well, I'm going to choose to do this, or I'm going to choose to do that. I think the world would be a much better place if we all took our power back and stopped.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, stopped with the rest. I'm only responsible for me, and whatever good I put in the world is mine. Period. So I love that. So you guys, you put this book out. Tell us a little bit about Bossibly, the organization that you and Michelle run together.
Yeah, sure. So we've been doing individual and group coaching, and we've created a community of people. And I just was traveling this weekend, and someone asked me, what do you do? And I paused. I'm like, how do I describe it? And I said, we help people figure out what they want to do when they grow up. And it doesn't matter how old or young they are. And I said, more specifically, we help people articulate their why, and then we give them tools and techniques so they can go after it. So it's in the lane of workplace coaching, but it's a bit broader, because when you talk about work, you talk about getting paid. And so that then you're in the field of value and worth. So it's broader than just your profession. So yeah, that's the space we play in. And we have created this community we call the Arena, because we only want people who are willing to do the work to come in there. Because if you're just sitting on the sidelines, armchair quarterbacking, then your opinion is, frankly, you can go somewhere else. Like, there's other places for you. But if you're in the mud and willing to be in the mud with others, that's the community we're building.
Yeah. And the workplace can be so confusing right now. I just heard on another podcast this morning that people are actually getting out of their houses and going back to the office, and they want to continue wearing sweats. Like, they want the suits to be gone. They want, now they've had a year in their sweats. Let's be honest, for a lot of them, nothing else fits. So there's that. But, I think the workplace is a really confusing place right now with all of the social justice, all of the, how do we speak to people? Now it's, what do we wear? Is it brown sweats? Is it black sweats? Is it, do we have formal sweats with the tuxedo stripe down the side?
I have a pair of black leggings that have a tuxedo stripe, and I used to wear them before the pandemic. So you can get away with those. There you go.
I will actually tell you, when I worked at Mattel, we had, back in the late, wow, it was a long time ago, mid 90s, I guess, is when I worked there. We used to have Casual Friday, and they stopped us women from wearing leggings to work. My boss actually said something about the pounds per square foot per inch or something being packed into them. And it was pretty crazy.
The things we used to say back in the 90s.
Yes, the things we used to say back in the 90s. And ladies and gentlemen, the 80s were worse. I just had that conversation with somebody the other day.
Yeah, a friend of mine said that she's gone full feral. She doesn't think that she's fit to be in society after the pandemic. I'm like, yeah, I get it, girl.
Yeah, I totally get it too. And it's so funny because you guys, for those of you out there who are of a certain age, if you were in corporate America in the 80s and 90s, believe me, all this whining that's going on, it's nothing. It was a freaking free for all back then. I remember I had tequila in my desk. And it was okay.
So bad. So bad.
So what are the next steps with the book, and what are you guys doing possibly to help bring the book in and build your audience with the book?
So we will be doing some pre-sales, obviously, with the wisdom of Juliet, bringing this book to market with us. We have a speaking engagement booked. That's actually how we picked the launch date. We're going to be in Colorado speaking with 350 leaders, and so who have their own businesses. So we will be we're actually giving this book to that audience as a gift, because these leaders are not loved on, and it's our intent to love on them and, help them not feel like it's just them who have to do it all. This group is mostly women. And I think culturally, often women just assume they have to do it all and do it all by themselves, and all that stuff that we make our lives unnecessarily hard. Mm-hmm. Because we think independence is where it's at. And, there's a time and a place for that, but I'm leaning towards interdependence these days, and I'm seeing a lot of value in it. And so we're hoping somebody resonates with something. And this is really just, one of many tools that we use to help people as they talk about hard stuff. And I can go, oh yeah, that resonates with me. In fact, let me show you how much that resonates with me. I wrote a little thing about that. So does that feel like you? Like, you're not the crazy person thinking that you're crazy. Like, we all have these in our head secrets about fear and shame and pain and all that crap that nobody talks about because it's not polite. Well, I've apparently abandoned all polite conversations. So here we are.
There you go. So let's wrap this up. Would you like to read one of the poems?
Sure. In fact, now I just said that, I'm going to pick a different one because now I have a different topic in mind. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Squeezed between. At that age where your energies are pulled, raising kids into adulthood while also helping parents into aging. I observe my friends, frayed from the strain, worry cast in all directions. This is a particularly exhausting time. Both parties crave their independence, yet both need watchful attention, keeping them out of harm's way. For the caregiver, there is no out of office. The phone calls can come at any time, heart racing, what is it this time? Dropping everything, racing to deal with the latest surprise. The tricky part is how to refuel the tank. Me time is for the betterment of everyone, yet those who need it are too damn tired, too tired to relax, to blow off steam. Creating that time requires effort they don't possess. There are no easy solutions, only compassion. This is a hard thing. I know your heart is heavy. I'm here, sitting with you as you do this hard thing.
Very nice. Very nice. So you guys, the book will be available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, pre-release the 19th of October. I think this actually airs after that, but it will be available online on November 2nd. So yay. Thank you so much for sharing all this today, Amy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Juliet.